Hi, today I show you how you can get photos from the camera or from your photo library. The easiest part of it to take the picture itself. The hardest part of this task is to request a permission to access the camera or to access your photo library. So when you create your application and you want to access your camera or your library, you need to get the permission from the user. So you need to set up your application that whenever you want to access these features from your phone, and then you ask for the permission. If the permission is already given, then to use it accordingly. So what you can see here is that the two application sample is running. Both are already requesting the access to the camera. And what you can do on the Android is that you can select if you allow the application to use the camera, or you can allow it only for that time when you are running the application. If you say don't allow, then the Android application will ask you next time again to get this permission for your application. However, this feature is not working very accurately. So what I was realizing that it was only running maybe twice after each other, and even if you restarted your application or your phone, you couldn't get this request coming up again. So you had to go to the settings and you had to set up the permission manually from the settings and not from here. So in the Android application, you get the request coming up, and of course you can also direct the user directly to the settings to get this permission set up properly for the application. But it's not that easy. You will see it when I will talk about the code itself. So here, let's say we are allowing the application, and then we get from the photo library, we have here the option that we can give limited access, or we can allow the full access to the pictures. So if we select the limited access, then we can select the photos, which photos we want to allow the application to reach, and then everything is set up, and we can get to the sample photo. Okay, and let's see it on the iOS. So it's a similar thing. We get at first that we want to request a permission for the camera access, so let's allow it. And then we have a similar thing for the photos, that we can have a limited access or full access to the photos. Here, let's say, let's get full access. So if we click on the gallery, it comes up and we can select the photo. So this is the easiest part. In the iOS application, if we run in a simulator, then we can't use the photo for the camera itself. So we will not test it here, but it's working on the same way. So when you take the photo, like here in the Android application, on a device, you can get the camera running, and then you can take the photo similarly like here, and you can accept it that you want to use this photo. Okay, let's see how the code looks like. So let's go at first to the Android application. Okay, so I set up a very simple application. So I have only one layout here, the first layout or first fragment. So I just put two buttons here, camera button and the gallery button, and a placeholder for the image what we are taking from the photo or from the camera. So what you need to do at first is that you need to set up in your Android manifest file the permissions what you want to use. So in our case, we want to use the camera, and we want to take pictures from the photo library. And for the camera, you need to use the Android permission camera, and for the photos from the library, you need to use the Android permission read media images. And if you want to have partial access to the files, then you need to add also the read media visual user selected. So this is the first thing. And the other thing is that because you want to reach files from your phone, you need to add here a provider as well, which will basically use the file path what you are setting up. So in our case, I set up this provider at first with the package name of the application, adding the .provider behind it. Then we also need to add this grant URI permissions to true, so that we are granting access to the files. And then we need to give the path, so where we want to reach this file path. And this will be taken from an XML file. So basically here we are just setting up the file provider path XML file itself, and this will be under the XMLs, as you can see here, XML provider path. And here we set up exactly that what we want to access. So here we put the images and the pictures. So this will be basically the place of the photos what we are taking from the camera. For the library itself, you don't need to set up any paths, because this is at a certain location and the system is handling it. Okay, so let's go to the first fragment, because this is what we are basically using. And here what you will notice that basically I was setting up the buttons. So when I'm clicking on the buttons, then I can basically go to the right place. But this is just, you know, the end of the whole thing. So the most important thing is that you need to set up the permissions properly. So what you need to do for that is that when you are creating the fragment, then you need to provide a launcher, which launcher will start up the permission requests on a way that you can get all the requests after each other. You can set up the request on a different way as well, but with that you can't control basically how these are running. So the better is if you use this launcher to set up the permissions. So what I'm doing here is that I'm registering for an activity which will be for this multiple permission request function. And then this will give back the permissions from the launcher. So when basically when you are seeing these dialogues that the system is asking for the permission, and you say allow or deny, these results will come back from these dialogues. And then you could be able to handle the results here directly in this section, but I like much better if it is in a separate function. So I set up an on permission result function, which is actually here, and this will take the result, which will be in a map of a string and a boolean, the string will contain the permission name itself, permission string itself, and the boolean is the set permission. So it will be an a granted or denied value. Okay, so the launcher is basically set up, and we will use it later on. And then we come to the request permission function, which will be basically run when we are coming to the on view created function. So at first we will take this function, or we will run this function, and this function will basically make for us the permission request. So what is happening here is that at first we are checking the permissions, and we use the variables for that. So we get from the system that the camera permission is given, and if it is granted, then we will get this variable true. Of course, we define these variables at the beginning here, so as a private variable for the class. So we take for all the three the different permissions from the system. So here the read media images and read media visual user selected. Similarly, just checking if it is permission granted, and then we add these variables. If they are not granted, then we add these to a list because we want to get these permissions requested. So we go through all of these, and we are adding to the permission request array these permission values or permission strings. Then we are checking if the permissions needed to be asked, and if there is no items, so every permission is requested, or everything is granted, then we don't need to run the launcher. Okay, if we need to run the launcher, then of course the next step is to run it. Once we run the launcher, then we need to check the results. So basically, this what was mentioned here at the registration of this activity result. If we were running the launcher, then it will come back here and check for the permission, and then again we are checking if in the results we have the camera permission listed. If not, then we are just taking the original value back into this value. So and we do it for all the three permissions, and then we check if the permission is given for the camera, or if it was given for the photos. And if it was given for the selected photos, or for all the photos, then we are basically enabling or disabling the buttons. And then this is basically the permission part of it. And as I mentioned, I was adding two buttons, a camera button and the gallery button. And then there are two functions which are called by these buttons, and these are basically handling the functionality of the photos, or of the launching the photo activity. So what we are doing here in the Android case is that basically we need to create a file. And this is where the file is created, basically for the file provider, or with the file provider at a certain place. So here we are creating the photo file itself, this will be an empty file. And then if the file is created, then we can go and we can make the photo itself. So for this we need to get at first the photo URI with from the file provider. So we get basically this the location of this file created earlier, and then we are launching the photo activity, which is basically very simple. So we just need to call the photo activity from these activity result launchers. So here we define the photo activity as a photo or camera picture photo function, and then we also created another one with the gallery itself. So basically here if the photo is taken, then automatically we can get this photo into the file what we are or into the image position what we created on the screen. But you can of course handle the picture on a different way. Okay, so with the gallery, it's another one. So here we are launching this gallery activity, and we are defining that we just want to take the images. Okay, so here what you can see is that how the file is created. So the image file we create with this function. It's very simply just adding the name or generating a name, and then we are giving back this file to the with the function to the requester. So once the photo is selected from the gallery, then we can take the image itself, and we need to convert it to a bitmap, because in the image file or image view we are using this bitmap to show the picture itself. Here I was using two ways of generating the bitmap itself, basically because of the SDK was changing a little bit. So if you are using a higher SDK than 29, then you need to use the first version. If you are using lower than 29, then you need to have a different one. And if you take the photo with the camera, then basically the system is the same. So if the photo was taken, then this function will run, and then it will take the photo from the photo URI what we created, and basically it will use this to generate the bitmap, and then we can load it. It's pretty much the same like here. The only difference, of course, is that where we are taking the photo itself. Okay, so that's it basically. And once you are running the application, and then again it's showing that now we allow all, and then we can take a photo. So here we can use the built-in photo sample or picture sample, and then we use it. And if we take a photo from here, which is already created, then we can get it from the file or from the gallery. So let's see it on the iPhone solution. So in the iPhone case, the permissions request you need to create on a similar way like in the Android version. However, here you don't have a standard request sheet. So what you need to do here is that you need to put into the info playlist file uh, two privacy lines. So one is for the photo library usage description. So here you can write in what you want to tell to the user that why you want to use the photo library, and here you should explain it. I just put here that the photo library usage request, so this sentence will appear under the request or in the request sheet. And the same for the camera, so privacy camera usage description, and here you need to describe as well the thing. So the other thing what I was doing here is similarly like in the Android case, I created the view controller with two buttons and an image view, and then I linked it into the view controller. So I have here the buttons, and of course for the buttons I also have the button functions here. So let's jump into it, how we can or how we are creating this this thing. So here the setup is a bit different to the Android case, because we don't have a standard launcher. We need to run the or So let's see how we can set it up in the view controller. So the first thing what you need to add is that you if you want to take the pictures from somewhere, I mean from the camera or from the photo library, you need to add two delegates to this view controller. One is the UI image picker controller delegate, and the other one is the UI navigation controller delegate. These two things are needed, otherwise the system or your application will not work properly. So how I set up the request that when the view is appearing, then at first I check the camera permission. So here you don't have the option to ask for several permissions at the same time or at once. And if you want to create the alerts for the camera permission requests, then you will not see one of them. So you will see only the first one, and the second one will not appear at all. And once you click on one alert view, then you will not get the other one. So you need to make sure that you ask for these permissions in a sequence. And how I did it, that I start with the check camera permission, and in this function first I'm checking if I have the authorization to use the camera. So you can do this with this AV capture device authorization status. For sure, what I did not mention, that you need to import these three kits or frameworks into your application. So you need the AV kit, the Photos UI, and the Photos. So at first I'm checking the authorization for the camera, and here you need to use the .video, not the .camera or something. This will be a bit weird, but this is what you need to use. And then depending on the result for this status, you need to do several things. So if the access is denied or restricted, This means, so if you already requested once this permission, then you don't have the chance to request it again. So you need to go to the settings, and then you need to manually set the permissions. So to do this, you can create an alert view, and you can tell to the user that she or he need to go to the settings and allow the camera access. And then you need to show this to the user. You can't do anything else. And of course, you need to disable the button itself, because you don't have the permission to use the camera. You should not access it. So the point here is that you need to make sure that the camera is not used. If you are not doing this, you can use the camera, of course, without getting the permission from the user, but you can get the application denied by the Apple Store if they are recognizing that you are not properly setting up this access request. Okay, so if you were never using the permission request, or if it was never running, then you will get this not determined status of it, and then you can request the access to the media. And then you will get that alert from the application that the application wants to use this permission. And then, depending on what is the response, if it is if the response was okay, so you can access the camera, then you should enable it, and if not, then you should disable it, of course. And here, what you need to make sure is that, because you are not running in a main thread of the application, you should change to there, because otherwise the button will not be disabled. So these functions will run into a failure, because you are not in the main thread. So you need to basically tell to the application that it should run on the main thread. And then when all this is done, then you need to go to the photo library permission request, which is pretty much the same. So basically, you are just going to the check photo library permission function, and then you check the status. And if the status is denied, restricted, just exactly the same as for the photos, then you create the alert view, and then you need to, or if it is not determined, then you can run the authorization or the permission request sheet, and depending on the answer there, you can set up the button. Okay, so this is what is creating for you the permission. So your buttons will be live if the permissions are given, and they will be disabled if these are not given. So let's come to the point where we are basically taking the camera photos, or we are taking a picture from the gallery. So here is the two function for the buttons, and what you need to use is the image picker controller, which will take the camera, or we use the library itself. So you need to use here the photo library, and then you need to assign a image picker controller, where you need to tell that which controller you want to use, and here you will define that which function will be used, or which point you are going. So either you will use the camera itself, or you will use the photo library. So here the my picker controller delegate my picker controller source type, which is defining that where the camera will or the photo library will bring the picture. And then basically here we defining that where the result should go, and then we are presenting the controller. So the two function is just different in the source type. So as you can see that when we click on the camera button, then the camera should run, and when we are clicking on the library button, then the library should pop up. So then here again we present the controller, and then the right one will bring up. And if we are canceling the controller, then we don't need to do anything basically. So we are not doing really anything. We just dismiss the picker itself. And if we have the image returned, then basically we take this original image and we put it into the image view, and then we dismiss the picker itself, so the camera or the library itself. So this is all what we need to talk about here. And when we run the application, then of course it should work as intended. So here we have the application, and as we were already setting up the functions, the only way to basically get it deleted again, that we take the application and we remove it. Okay, we deleted it, and then let's rerun it again. And here you can see that once you deleted it, then you can set it up. I can show you also that what happens if you don't allow the application. Of course, these buttons will be disabled. You can't use them at all. Let's rerun it from here. You will see that now we get this alert message that we need to go to the camera privacy settings, and once we click OK, then it will bring up that also for the photo library access we got the we didn't have the allowance to use it. So this is the problem with the iOS, that you need to go then to the settings. So here if we go to the settings and we go to the privacy security, and then we go to the photos, and here you can see that the sample photos application would like to use it, so we can give the access. Okay, let's give full access, and then we should have also the camera here, and again the sample photos application would like to use it, and we allow it to use. So now once we go back to the application, you can see that it's already letting us to go to the camera. Of course, as I said, we can't test it here in this application, but we can take a photo from the library, and then of course it's giving back the right photo for us. So that's it basically. If you like the tutorial, then please subscribe to my channel.